Hour two here. AC Lee and Parlay Pete back. Let's talk about the Celtics. Celtics announced today that they will retain Joe Missoula coming into next year. I think that's very telling about what the front office is thinking.
You mean Brad Stevens?
Yeah, Brad Stevens. Joe Missoula is his guy. Joe Missoula is probably the worst head coach in the NBA today. He's 34, which means we were in high school at the same time. Not to say that he's not capable of doing the job, but I don't think my peers are ready to lead NBA teams yet. I just don't.
And Al Horford might be older than him.
Al Horford is older than him, and Al Horford took the reins because if you paid attention to the Celtics bench at all during the series, Al Horford was sitting in the head coach's seat, and he and Marcus Smart were going over the adjustments and the timeouts. I mean, the very few that Joe Missoula called, mainly the Eric Spoelstra timeouts, they would get in and do Joe's job. But I'll tell you what, Joe Missoula and the way he presents himself to the media, I understand that what you say to the media doesn't necessarily matter because Nick Siriani had a terrible introductory press conference and he says some weird stuff, but he coaches those boys up in Philly.
Nobody's worse than Gannon, though. And not his introductory, but just him introducing himself to Buda Baker. I mean, continue. I'm sorry. That was the first thing that popped in my mind when you said worse. And I'm thinking NFL because we're almost there.
When Joe is confronted with the media, and he talks about, hey, do you guys think you are shooting too many threes? No, you got to keep shooting threes. And then you watch the game and you go, yes, the analytics say if you shoot this many threes and you shoot at this percentage, you should get this many points. But what happens when you're not shooting at that percentage? What happens when those threes aren't open threes? And a little bit of Miami in Denver, them being great and playing basketball the right way, they play inside out. They even if Joker's not always on the block, but Murray's penetrating, KCP's hitting middies. They're hitting Aaron Gordon underneath for the easy dunks when they say, hey, we're going to let Aaron Gordon beat us. Miami, when Jimmy Butler's at his best, he's driving and kicking. He's driving and scoring. He's driving and dishing. Boston, they don't do that. They go, hey, we're going to spread it out and shoot threes. But we're not even going to give you the illusion that we're not going to shoot threes. We're just going to, you know what? We're Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and KD in their prime. We can just outshoot you because we're that damn good. And they're not. They're not. Here's what the Warriors had. Steph Curry is a 3-level scorer. He can score at the rim with his float game. He can pull up mid-range. He can shoot from anywhere inside of half court.
Mm-hmm.
Klay Thompson, catch and shoot, his releases so quick it didn't matter. Draymond Green, set screens and plays point forward as good as anybody that we've seen this side of prime Lamar Odom in LA, right? Mm-hmm. He sets the table for those guys. He understands floor spacing. And let's not forget, you remember when Draymond was a great shoot, when he could actually shoot three to like 35%?
Where he was a threat, yeah.
Exactly. Like he set people up, but now he can't shoot in the same way, so you back off of him a little bit more so that it's not as effective. But Draymond is dictating what's going on. He's playing point guard. The Celtics, they don't have anybody playing point guard. They have Jaylen Brown scoring from the perimeter. Jason Tatum scoring from the perimeter. Marcus Smart shooting from the perimeter. Malcolm Brogdon, if he's available, scoring from the perimeter. Derek White scoring.
He's not the only one that was going to the hole, at least in Game 7.
Exactly. Yeah, you can hit Rob Williams with an oop, but if you're playing
That's
Rob
not
Williams
offensively for him though.
Al Horford, he's not doing anything under the basket. He's shooting corner threes.
Yep.
And you guys want the threes, but you don't have the offensive flow to actually shoot them. You're not getting good shots. And I think the Celtics made a huge mistake by bringing Joe Missoula back, I think that, again, when he talks to the media, he's like, no, more threes. No, we just got to execute better. I got to be better. No, your execution isn't the problem. You are you have a bad plan. And when you have a bad plan, when you execute the bad plan, but you just miss because it's a make or miss league, you're screwed.
Inexperienced coach with an younger experienced team, because they're a younger experienced team.
Yes.
And I think that if you hire an inexperienced coach to coach younger players, whether like the Celtics, which are a rare experienced team, but like many other teams that are inexperienced, like the Pistons, right? Hire Monty Williams. What is this coach going to do for the guys that are on this team? Can he really take them to another level? The answer really is no, because he's not somebody that's going to develop and make them more dimensional as a team. He's not going to do it. And maybe if you move the right pieces around and you can make it work, maybe something can come out of it. I, for one, if there's one trade I would love to see Boston do, and I think it would help out Phoenix as well, I would trade Marcus Smart to Phoenix for Chris Paul. And I would let Chris Paul have a year with those guys. Granted, it would suck because you know his ass is going to get hurt. But, you get a healthy Chris Paul in the playoffs. Is that not like the type of facilitator that those dudes kind of need on that team?
I got a better guy for you. And a
Who?
guy that's easier to get. Mike Conley.
Is he free agent?
Let me see.
I don't trade Marcus Smart for him, though. And granted, you really don't trade Marcus Smart for Chris Paul for what it's worth. But
I think Marcus Smart is addition by subtraction.
I think him going to a team like Phoenix makes it better, because then you let Book kind of handle the ball a little bit more. KD's already going to handle the ball too. Mike you sure up by getting a defensive player, a much more defensive-minded player that will guard the best ball handler. KD's a pretty good defensive player.
I mean, he didn't guard Jimmy Butler much.
Who? Mark Smart?
DPOY, nah, he wasn't really.
Hell, it just seemed like at times nobody was guarding anyone out there. I mean, Jaylen Brown was the one that should have been guarding him, for what it's worth. That's who should have been guarding him. But
so, do you think the Celtics need to blow it up and go in a different, what? If you're Brad Stevens,
with you keeping Joe Missoula, yeah.
What direction do you go if you're Brad Stevens?
Well, I would have fired Joe Missoula. And I think the only thing that saved him is the fact that they did take it to 7. And I think if they went 6, if they had lost game 6 and he didn't get that layup, I think he still would have kept his job. But I think that if he got swept, I think he was fired. I think if they went 5, he might have been fired. I would hire. I know that and I know you're not the biggest fan of him as a whole. Would have hired Bud. Honestly, I would have hired Bud.
No. I would. Has Bud got hired yet? No. I would have hired
Bud. Need the coach.
Bud has clout, and here's what the Celtics need. They had Ime Udoka, who he's the man's man. I mean,
clearly.
There,
well, you know well, look at who is his baby, is the mother of his child, and obviously what he got caught doing. Clearly,
well, yeah, the mother of his child, his ex fiance, is one of them. Who on that team didn't have a crush on Nia Long at some point? You know what I'm saying?
And he still didn't give a fuck.
Right. So he has a certain level of fuck you in him. You know what I'm saying?
Some would call it arrogance.
or narcissism, but it's one of the things, right? When you hear guys talk about, oh my God, how could he cheat on her? Hey dog, if you got her, you ain't shocked and surprised that you got her.
These bitches love Beyonce, and the same thing happened to her.
So yeah, and it's he checked them young men. You know what I'm saying? Like, he would call him out in the media. So he was calling him out in the locker room. I don't think Joe Missoula was holding those guys accountable. And I think, again, that's another issue that we have in basketball culture is that the power structure is all thrown off because players are not being held accountable by leadership. And Joe Missoula can't check those guys. He can't do like Ty Lue did in the 2016 finals when LeBron was saying some shit. And Ty Lue said, hey, man, shut the fuck up. I got this.
Well, and was it more so that even if there was some sort of respect, was it more of a respect for the position of authority or was it respect for the man? I think that it was the former as opposed to the latter. I think that it was respect for the idea that this is my coach. He's the guy that they put in charge of the organization. This is my coach. I don't think that it was respect necessarily for the man. I don't think that because it's not like, at least with Ime Udoka, he played in the NBA.
Yep.
He played for Pop. So he came from that. He's won a championship with them. He's played with Tim Duncan. He's played, like, you know what I mean? There's a little bit more respect. Obviously, his wife. I mean, I'm not saying that somebody's wife makes you respect them, but I'm just saying, like you said, those guys have thought about Nia Long too. And so it's like there was just so much more like, man, bro, yeah, coach. Yeah, he wasn't that nigga in the league, but, I mean, he was still a nigga in the league. And so and it's worked out pretty well for him. Oh, yeah, not to mention he was just an assistant in Philly and in Brooklyn where he's coaching Harden, KD, Embiid. Like, these are guys that he coached. Like, he's dealt with the guys that just are like us, essentially, as opposed to Joe Missoula kind of being a second bench coach, as some people have pointed out, that he wasn't even – because Handy, the dude that's the Jazz coach, was the head coach. He was the head assistant.
Hardy.
Hardy, not Handy. And then Damon Stoudemire, who Tech just hired in the middle of the year, he was another one, another guy that's a player that we all know where he played. I remember him with the Portland Trailblazers growing up. You know, like, so I think that it was more so of he never had respect from the team as a man, as opposed to them disrespecting him as a coach. He never had the team in general.
Yeah, and
they chose him. And then here's the thing, too. You have to think that Brad Stevens, because he coached both of them, too, and just all those guys, Horford, he coached Smart, he coached pretty much that whole nucleus. He coached them, too, to where, you know, they came to them. And he told them, now they didn't come to them and ask them, who do you want to be of all the assistants? He came to them and said, but he told them before it happened, like, Joe's going to be the coach of the team. We're not going to bring Ime back. He's going to be suspended all year, and I don't believe we're going to have him back. I think that they were very upfront about that at the start of the year and were like, he's probably not going to coach this team again. And this is who I've decided to go with. We need to make this work, guys.
And I think some of the same reasons why Brad had to move upstairs are the same reasons why Joe gets to stay. And why Joe's not effective, and why, you know how we want to get rid of Rich McKay, because you just got to get that. You just need to get that voice out of there.
Let's just get the last of the.
We are all here to do what Falcons do. Look at that.
I think that I think the blow up. If I differ from most, I don't think the blow up needs to start with the personnel. I think it needs to start with the leadership. I think ownership needs to clean house of their leadership, because I think the leadership is leading them in the wrong direction. Because the Celtics have overachieved young, we have this expectation that they're supposed to go to the next level. But NBA history pretty much tells us that they're supposed to start winning championships in a year or two.
The architect of the team is gone. And ultimately, you know, that was Danny Ainge. Danny Ainge was the architect of the team. And that's why they moved a guy like Brad Stevens up, because he just wasn't getting it done. And they think that he's too good of a basketball mind to just kind of let leave. Because Brad Stevens would get hired. If somebody wanted to hire him as a coach, he could have got the type of money that Monty got too. Because he's still a younger coach. and he's had success, obviously, on both levels.
Yes.
So the thought is that he can identify talent just like Danny Ainge can. But like Danny Ainge was still ultimately the architect of the team. He's the one that drafted those guys. He's the one that hired Brad Stevens. He's the architect of the team. So now you start talking about, okay, I'm in this kitchen with this brioche hot dog, with this brioche hot dog bun, with this Dijon mustard and this organic, smoked tomato ketchup. And I've got this hot dog casing that's filled with Wagyu. And it's kind of like, now I don't know how to cook this because I've never cooked Wagyu. So how do I cook it? You know what I mean? How do I make it taste good? I know I've got good ingredients, but how do I make it taste good? Do I add my own little pinch to it? Do I leave it as is? I don't think that they have an understanding of what direction they really want this team to look like, because the team doesn't have an identity. And so, like, that to me is like a bigger issue. You've got a first-year coach that doesn't have an identity of a coach. Your GM is the former coach who is, for what it's worth, I think he knows what he's doing, but like, you're really basing that off of the fact that he got hired by the person that did know what they were doing. So now what do you do? What do you do? Well, I think he's got to put his own fingerprints on the team, and the Joe Missoula hire will probably prove to be costly because I don't think he's a good coach, but they're going to have to make the right moves personnel-wise if they're going to keep the same coach.
And we'll get to the moves next. I think a great point that you made was they kept Brad around because they didn't want to lose the basketball mind. But when you start –
and the familiarity with the groceries.
But when you start playing defense when you're on offense, you raise your ceiling – you raise your floor, but I think you shrink the ceiling. We watched our Falcons play last year. We played defense on offense because we didn't have a defense, and our offense was pretty simple. And we could have made the playoffs, but we were nowhere near being a contender because we could not play offense or defense.
And it's certainly one might show up, the other wouldn't. Never put together complete games, except the 49ers game where we played against their backup defensive line. But it was the most complete game we played all year.
And then you look at the Chiefs, right? They play offense on offense and offense on defense. Spagnuolo's not trying to stop you and only give up 3 points. Spagnuolo is trying to get 1 or 2 costly turnovers, 1 or 2 big stops, 1 big sack that leads to a punt, right? They're playing offense on defense. And I think that when you're playing offense on defense, you elevate your ceiling much higher and you go from being good to great, or you go from being average to good. Like you raise what you're capable of doing. And the Celtics they're capping out as a contender that can't actually win a championship. They're turning into the Jazz of the John Stockton and Karl Malone era. Yeah, man, you might run through the conference, but nobody takes you seriously as a championship team. I don't care what the Vegas odds say. Like, nobody watched the Celtics in the playoffs and said they're a champion. And if you did, it's your fandom. It's only your
either that or their name is John Morant, because that was the only team he apparently feared all season. So
he should have been fearing his own social media team.
No, that nigga. Hell, he is his social media team. Clearly, but.
So you talked about personnel, and a trade that I think makes a lot of people happy. I think it makes both teams better, even though it looks like one team takes a big loss. Trae Young for Jaylen Brown.
I think one team's ceiling goes higher.
I think if you
and
get
Boston's ceiling is the one that goes higher.
Absolutely.
I think we become a better team, though.
Exactly. Yes, we do. And I think that
and we wouldn't be done with moves after that move either. we would move something else would happen with that core.
Yes. But I think if you give Jason Tatum a legitimate point guard who has feel for the game, who can take pressure off of him as a ball handler, but also run an offense that allows Jason Tatum to boogie, whether you're staggering minutes or you're like, hey Trey, you're gonna sit in the fucking corner and you're gonna catch and shoot threes. Yeah. Sometimes Jason is gonna have the ball up top, and you're gonna. I don't need you on the wing standing. I need you just in the corner. I want you in the corner. And you can lollygag over there. I don't need you to like be cutting, screen on that. No, just wait for the ball. I think you have something there, but I also think that you get Trey out of Atlanta. He gets humbled some because he got traded and he didn't get to go to this glamour market that he wants to go to. I know Boston, storied franchise, but not many people are requesting trades to go to Boston. And then you bring Jaylen Brown back home, but you also pair him and DeJounte Murray together, guys who are not A-listers. They will have A-list games, but they're not A-listers.
Mm-hmm.
You make the Hawks a more solid, consistent team. I think a better team for what Quinn Snyder would like to coach. I think you can coach I know you can coach DeJounte hard. He didn't leave the Spurs because he hated Pop. He left the Spurs because they were going through a rebuild, and he just came off of an All-Star game, and he's in his prime. Like he's like, bro, like I'm too good to be down here being terrible. I think Jaylen Brown takes good hard coaching as long as he's supported. You don't put this guy in trade rumors after he was your best player in your first final since 2010.
Exactly.
And he feels the love of Atlanta. Hey, no, we want you. We gave up Trae Young, the franchise, for you to come here and be the best player on our team. I think it's –
And we're going to pay you.
Yes. I think it's a win-win-win. And then you throw in the whole collective bargaining piece. Well, DeJounte's not going to make all NBA next season. And so you don't have to worry about paying that supermax. Whereas Boston has to pay they better offer Jaylen at supermax, or he's definitely a goner.
Right.
You got to give Tatum the supermax next year when he's up because he's the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And the new CBA has made it to where, bro, you got 2 supermax guys. You better draft well and hope some veterans want to come take the minimum. So
their dream scenario is to trade him for Dame Lillard, Jaylen Brown for Dame Lillard. That would be the most. They would say yes in a heartbeat. They would say, Dame and Tatum would be tough to like fathom.
But does it still address their need for a fucking point guard?
Depends on what Dame decides he wants to do as a player. Dame can facilitate. He's not really a facilitator, but I think he could do it. He's not James Harden. They need a really good backup point guard that he could play with to where Dame could be a 2, because that's kind of what he does anyways, where he's a 6'3" 2, but they would need to get a really solid backup point guard. I can't even think of who that could be in today's NBA. But
because it goes back to what I was
Jones or something.
Right.
I don't know. Like, it would need to be a motherfucker like that he could play with, that will facilitate, that will pick and pop and make a jump shot here and there, but it's ultimately there to run the offense.
But the NBA is getting away from those types of players. We're not.
Or Mike Conley would need to want to accept the bench role or something.
Right.
You know what I mean?
The NBA is not rewarding players who are offensive table setters. Like, you got to be. It's like you have to be a combo guard now. Like, well, what if I have? You look at the Clippers. Injuries aside, one of the biggest reasons why Paul George and Kawhi Leonard haven't won a championship is they don't have a distributor. They don't have somebody who says, "Hey, Zubac needs a touch right now, just so we can get some good screens and an extra block and 2 extra rebounds." You know, they don't.
Russ kind of got to come in and be that a little bit, but he never really played with Paul George and Kawhi at the same time. So
And I think that's ultimately that's what Boston needs.
How would you feel about that? How about that?
What?
How would you feel about Russell Westbrook going to Boston if they kept that core together and Russ signed for something less than obviously maybe what he would get, I guess. I don't know. To where it would work to where he could join that team. And maybe Smart gets the boot for a late first from another team or something. I don't know. Like, how does that feel?
I struggle saying that Russell Westbrook.
Because it's like the same thing as what the Clippers were trying to do.
I struggle saying Russell Westbrook is going to come in and turn us into a championship team.
Agreed, because when has he ever done it? But it would be interesting, I guess. That would be interesting.
I think
they do keep their core together, and that's like their top target. That would be interesting, to say the least.
Very interesting. I got a question for you, probably, Pete.
Mm-hmm.
With the new CBA and the inability to give mid-level contracts, we're not going to do a CBA deep dive, but we've both read enough about it to talk intelligently enough about it. And I know this wouldn't happen, okay? So let me start there.
Okay.
But do you think that the NBA should get away from giving every good to great player a max contract and actually effectively manage their budget, and only the max contract be reserved for your actual no shit max players, like your guys who qualify?
Are you saying almost like slot rosters to where this guy is worth this much? Because
do what the NFL does. Like, hey, everybody who's up doesn't always get top of the market. But
there's a certain cap that they fall under.
Yes.
Based on whatever type of deal they get, based on the position.
Yes, because we're going to get rid of the middle class in the NBA, which we've already been gutting anyways. The middle class has been getting gut. The veterans who are the Udonis Haslams of the world, who's like, hey, man, we got to give you the vet minimum, which is more than the rookie minimum, to be a culture guy. Well, what happens when you have a Jeff Green type of guy, a JaMychal Green type of guy, a Thaddeus Young type of guy, a guy who gives you something but is above vet minimum, but is not, but you don't want to give him 25 either.
You're not going to get the mid-level exception, the 1 year 6.75 either. Yeah, but he could fetch a 2 year $7.5 million type contract with 5 guaranteed, and then the second year is partially guaranteed. Like, yeah, I get what you're saying.
A guy, and I'm not going to use this guy just because of the indirect relationship I have, like a Torrey Craig type of guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's a guy who he should fetch about $8-9 million this year, as a free agent. Because he's been on good teams. He stays on good teams. He offers something.
8 or 9 annually?
Yeah, like on a 2 year.
Okay.
2 year 17, 2 year 18.
Sure. He's a feasible starter next to stars.
Right. But then that level of player, right, turns into, hey, dog, all I got is $3 million for you. I got 1.5. If we take more off of the top, and it sounds like socialism, I know. But we're building a team. We're not building an ecosystem, a society, because I'm not going to get into that shit. But we're building a team with a salary cap. Don't you want to kind of incentivize you hire people? Don't you want some of the people you hire to see a higher earning potential if they meet certain benchmarks?
Yeah, and that was, it's funny because that's something that we're thinking about implementing now, because there's a lot of commission-based stuff. But and I guess they kind of do that with the Supermax for the really good players, right? They make that super. That's what the supermax is for. A guy like Ja missed out on, third team All NBA this year that cost him almost $40 million, right? So,
it cost him 40 mil, but he's still making like 180.
I agree with you though in totality. I think that, the issue is this: Jaylen Brown's a good player. He was an All NBA second team player, but in reality, should Jaylen Brown be getting a 5-year, almost $300 million contract? That doesn't even sound right, even for him. As good of a player he is, should he be making $300 million over the next 5 years? Fuck no. Fuck no. Fuck no. Because he's not the best player in the NBA. He's not a top 10 player in the NBA. He's a top 20 player. He's not a top 10 player in the league.
I listened to Bill Simmons talk about it, right? He goes, is he a top 6 forward? Like,
we're so accustomed to saying automatically guys like KD and LeBron are automatically on everybody's list. Kawhi Leonard is another one, in my opinion. He's one of those guys that just automatically is on your list. Paul George is a small forward too.
Anthony
Maybe
Davis.
that's the guy we're overrating a little bit too much. I don't know. But
Anthony Davis is a power forward, but we're saying forward, right? Like,
Jaylen Brown's not a top 6 forward.
He's not.
I know, but he's still going to be eligible to get $300 million. Like,
and the agents,
and it's not even a shot at his game.
No.
It's just.
Hey, like we said,
I can't think about making you. The market does not dictate to me that you are the best player in the NBA. You're getting this Joe Johnson type deal, where Joe Johnson, when he signed his deal with the Hawks, when he re-upped, he became the highest paid player for a couple of days, and it was just like, why do the Hawks have the highest paid player that at best is an all-star reserve and maybe a third team All NBA guy top? It's like what the fuck is this? You know what I mean?
You're 6'2", right?
6'1".
6'1". You'll never be 6'5".
Correct.
That is not a knock. That is a knock.
I get that surgery.
You'll never be 6'5".
Well, what about the surgery? Are you telling me that if my surgery tells me I'm not 6'5", that I ain't 6'5"?
I would never tell you that.
All right. I just need to make sure.
Yeah, but
this is recording,
For now, you're not 6'5". Until you have the surgery, then you can transition and do whatever.
I can transition to I can go from just being above average height to a tall glass of water. I don't know.
I'll say peanut.
Yeah. Oh, peanut.
But yeah, so you're not 6'5". I'm not knocking you for not being 6'5". I'm just saying you're not 6'5".
Right.
When Jadakiss said top 5 dead or alive, many will say you're great, really good, underrated. Top 5 dead or alive.
You're not top 5 with the top 5 dead or the top 5 alive, and certainly not combined.
Right. So
you're one of the illest niggas really with the mic, but you're not that.
Right. So I think that's the same thing we're going with the Jaylen Brown thing. But I'll say, man, that the owners, not the owners, excuse me, the agents screw up everything because at the end of the day, they want their goddamn commission. So they're always going to drive the higher contracts. And I'm not against players getting paid. I will always scream, get paid, young nigga, get paid. But as a consumer in salary cap leagues, I don't want everybody to get paid because I want to see really good teams. I want to see good players play together. And when everyone's getting paid, they're not playing together. And it turns into what happened when the league expanded when Michael Jordan went on his run.
Right.
Not enough talent concentrated together.
Then that'd be a competitive advantage. It feels like there's a way they could fix this, but
nope. At
first, you some people will maybe point and be like, well, what if you went the baseball route, right? Like, because even in baseball, granted, the sucky teams really fucking suck, but like,
and they're poor.
But even the Yankees, who have the most money, they don't. It's not like they win either in baseball.
They haven't won in 13 years.
Yeah, and they haven't been to one either in 13 years. So it's like, does it really matter if the Lakers have the money to sign everyone? Like, I don't know. I guess is my thing. But
No,
I get it. It's way more glamorous to play there. But at the same time, like, the Mets have the highest payroll, right? But like, that's because they're paying two guys a shit ton of money. That's why Verlander and Scherzer are getting paid $40 million a year, and they're both pitchers. And they ultimately do not realistically dictate. Their hope is when they make the playoffs, that's when it's going to matter there, right? Like, that's when they want them. But like, that is not dictating how good that team is.
if they pitch twice in the series, there goes 4 wins. That's all you need.
That's the point. Exactly. And that's all they need is that type of rest and maybe one more guy to step in. But outside of that, they don't need that. But like in the NBA, some would say maybe a player like KD, that you only need him kind of for the playoffs, right? Like that was kind of the Suns thinking, it felt like.
The thing about the NBA, though, is you can pay all of these guys, but they're not going to want to play together because there's only one ball. It's not baseball, right? Like in baseball, someone else's shine and their ability has no effect on me because baseball is a
individual sport.
It's a team individual sport, right? Like the only thing you got to worry about is the shortstop and the third baseman arguing over who's going to get the ball when it goes in the hole. Or if a ball's hit the left center, who's going to get the ball, the center fielder or the left fielder. But at the end of the day, you have your lane of responsibility. And we're talking about pitching and hitting. It doesn't matter. I get my own at bat. It's isolated. I'm on the mound by myself. So I don't care how much you're getting paid. You getting 20 if Scherzer gets 20 wins and Verlander gets 20 wins, they don't cross paths until the playoffs when you start throwing random niggas to pitch because you're trying to win a World Series, right? But like,
right,
it doesn't. Whereas basketball's a team sport, you could pay LeBron. Who's the best two guard in the league right now? Do we even have any good two guards?
Gosh, every team's pockets can't be that fucking deep. Like, I mean, can the Lakers afford to pay 6 niggas?
No.
$100 million contracts?
Well, no, because they're cash. The Lakers are cash poor. You got to think about Ballmer, somebody who has cash, liquid.
Well, yes, okay, right. Somebody that really could just do what they want to do.
Right. You could get all the guys on the team, but are they going to play well together? We've seen it in the Olympics where we get like our team.
That's kind of how soccer is, right?
I can't speak intelligently.
Can you imagine? I tell you what. Can you imagine if they did do it like baseball, but also a mixture with soccer in a sense of when those guys leave to go to different teams like Messi, and then there's a transfer fee to where you're not even trading. You can make it to where, like in the NBA, you still trade a player, but then you're like, we need $100 million to go with this. Because then that'll give us the opportunity to offer this money to somebody else too. Well, and it weakens your pockets. I don't know. I feel like they could do something like that.
Here's the thing. We are speaking as sports purists in everything that we're saying. And what gets lost in all of our sports conversations, dog, it's a business. It's sports entertainment. And guess what? As long as people are entertained and the league is making more money than it spends every year, the owners are happy. Because I've said this, I believe there should be owner relegation. And I think that more people who are lifers in the sport should be rewarded with the opportunity of ownership, not the person who can just sign the $5 billion check. Yeah. And it's a business, and more owners want richer owners to come in to pay to bring teams in because it makes them more money. I got it. But when you got your man's out in Phoenix who buys a team and he says, you know what, I want KD. And his GM and his head coach says, hey, look, we value his talent, but we got this new CBA coming and we're already paying Book this, we're paying CP this, and we're paying Ayton this. If we bring in KD, we're going to give up depth and spots at players that we would not have to pay at that rate. And the production that we're getting from KD, no, we don't have anybody else who can give us that exactly, but we can make some of the parts meet that with what we already have and have more money to spend. He goes, No. Bring him in.
What? And then he looks at him too, and he says, and he also hasn't played in the All-Star game in 6 years. That means he's always hurt when that comes around. The Knicks fucking hurt by February every year. And then he also tells me, he says, and guess what? And he's 34 years old. Like, the nigga's getting old.
Right.
Like, he's old too.
Like, KD can retire in 2 years and we won't think anything of it. Oh, yeah. Came in at 19. Yeah.
I guess he's kind of old. Right. And he played 17, 18 years. Like,
his full career.
Yeah. And he's got a few times. Like, he's accomplished everything in the game that you can accomplish.
Yeah. Like,
and he's got business ventures just like LeBron, boardroom, all that shit. He got his own shit too.
Yeah, he's just like, hey, man, I want to keep
a Nike contract too. Like, I mean,
I want to keep playing basketball. I don't want to go to LA Fitness and get paid nothing. I'd rather get paid 40. You know,
right?
So, when you don't have when you have a league that the fan base is caring about the product on the field, on the court, but then you have decision makers who are only concerned about the bottom line, you get fucked up CBAs like this. You get decisions that just make absolutely no money, like Mark Cuban just unloading salary to get Kyrie that he knows is going to walk because he's like, you know what, bro, like, you just save.
He has no choice.
Sure.
Either that or lose Luka and or trade Luka now anyways and just try and figure out what the fuck you're going to, because you're going to be tanking. You're going to be bad for a minute.
You know what? Nobody wants to lose. I mean, nobody wants to play with Luka. Nobody wants to come to Dallas. Bob Myers, he stepped down. I haven't read anything about the why.
I think I know why.
But it's been looming all year. They didn't renew his contract. Some might say that he made comments that turned Kevin Durant off. But I think that was tongue-in-cheek.
I think KD just wanted to move on.
Yeah, I do too.
Because he did what he wanted to get done, and the only thing anyone would talk about was the fact that he did it with them, and he's like, "Well, I'll show y'all," like type shit. And I can move to Brooklyn. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, San Francisco's cool, but like,
if San Francisco or Brooklyn, 1, 2, 3.
New York. Yeah, I was about to say, I moved to New York.
Like, what are we arguing about? Like,
I'm not even thinking twice about it, honestly. I love California, but I'm in LA, so like, I mean,
if I'm gonna pay high taxes and I'm not even in LA, like, I'm in LA in the off season already. Like, no, you know what? Let me go to New York. Let me again build my empire out in New York because I have the tech relationships now.
And it's the media capital of the world.
Right. I don't have to live here anymore to do business here. I've done enough business. I've met the right people. We're good.
And you've got, I mean, I'm sure San Francisco, I mean, I've been to San Fran, but like, I'm sure you got good restaurants out there, but we start talking about New York's got some of the best food in the world. Like, you can go, you know? It's so much to like about it. Plus, the Nets had never won anything. You can kind of make your own legacy. I mean, there's a lot to like about it, I guess. Hove, you know, stuff like that. I don't know.
Hove did.
I know Hove don't own it, but you know what I mean? It's still, his fingerprints are still on that team when you look at that black and white shit. So,
oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's Hove.
So I'm trying to find something.
Bob Myers, though, I'll keep going, but Bob Myers, Knicks.
You said Knicks?
Why not? Doesn't it make a lot of sense? They're not letting what's-his-face return. It's a matter of Steve Stout and what's-his-face want to bring Bob Myers in. Perry, I think, was his name. He's the GM. Because they were that was like the first black, like, complete front office.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it's the Knicks, too, of all teams. But, like, I could imagine Bob Myers going to New York where now suddenly they're appealing to go to. They made it to the second round. They made the playoffs 2 out of the last 3 years. They have young, movable contracts. They probably will be in line maybe to be able to sign somebody with that new CBA, even with what they have. They get that one big fish. They could trade another piece to get the other pieces. and then you were playing in Madison Square Garden. What's not to like about it? And then if Bob Myers is a guy, it sets up even better because he's an architect of a team that was the last dynasty of the NBA so far, So I think it makes sense if he's going to be, unless he's just taking a year off or, doesn't want to do it anymore. It makes a ton of sense to me.
Well, apparently he said that he's leaving because he could not give full effort and engagement needed for the job. And they say that Joe Lacob may not be the easiest owner to work for. Shocker. Billionaire is hard to work for. I ran its course. They're probably tired of each other. He sees the writing on the wall with the Warriors too. These niggas getting old.
Yeah, they're finished. I mean, the dynasty's over. And they got a big decision. Do you go to $500 million in luxury tax, $500 million salary and all that luxury tax per year to sign Draymond to keep this band together? You're not really going to be able to get rid of Poole. Clay's lost a step ultimately. He's still a serviceable player, but he's lost a step. And Steph Curry is ultimately going to get old within this process too. He's still a good player, and his game will translate for him to be old because he's a shooter. And he's a point guard, but at the same time, I don't know, you got to surround that team differently. And unless Steph decides, he's not going to re-up after his next contract, this is pretty much it. I mean, so you still got to pay Wiggins. You just read up with your younger guys. You're going to be good enough to where you're never picking in the top 10 to even have a chance to really kind of strike gold. You're always going to be picking 18 and up, you know what I mean? And so it's a tough position to be in. And I feel like he probably wanted to get out of it, and he probably got out of it at the right time. He got his last championship, worked out.
He looked at that cap sheet. He looked at the new CBA. He said, I ain't making these decisions because he ain't going to let me spend his money the way I want to. Deuces.
And more importantly, I built a great enough resume to where it ain't even about money for me because someone will pay me. I'll be the highest paid GM now.
I mean, shit, Monty's the highest paid coach with.
Yeah, but we know what that was about.
Nobody wants to go to Detroit.
Yeah, he said, pay me like y'all want me to come to Detroit. And he was like, hell, y'all want me to really come bad. he's like a Forrest Gump. And he the principal or the whatever came out, superintendent was like, he's like, your mother sure does care about your education. And then Forrest is like, he. That's just about what that is. You know what I mean?
Okay, a few quick hitters before we get to the culture, because shit, it's too.
Oh, yeah.
Does Melo get his jersey retired anywhere? Not should he, does he?
Yes, I think it ultimately does.
I agree. He does get it retired in New York, but that's just because the Knicks haven't had anybody to put their arms around since Patrick Ewing. And Denver was happy for him to go, and they gave Jokic his number, so he can't be properly appreciated.
And now Jokic is already the greatest nugget ever.
Yep.
Already. Plus, Melo's a top 10 scorer in NBA history, and he's on the All-NBA 75 team. How's his jersey not retired somewhere? It has to be.
You feel like it does, right? But the sports media, they don't like Melo because of
fuck Mad Dog.
Wemby content. I know it's a slow time of the year. I'm tired of seeing Wemby already.
I want to record a soundbite for the show when we talk about him that gets played, where I just say what I typed in. Babe, look, more Wemby content. Wake up, babe. More Wemby content. And just throughout the year, that just be kind of like the bat signal for, all right, let's talk about Victor Wembanyama, because he's going to be so over-publicized until he either is officially a bust or he officially wins a title. That's just going to be what it is while he's in the league for whatever reason.
And what's not getting talked about enough with Wemby, here I come sound like a Euro hater, his body type hasn't worked long-term ever. Granted, we haven't seen his body type and skill set, and he's young, so he may fill out a lot more, but he he towers over Rudy Gobert. Like, they say he's still growing. He might get up to like Yao Ming height. And when you're that tall, you're not supposed to run around a lot and jump and do anything. Like, you're supposed to just walk and be in museums and get looked at by people and shit.
Yao, you know what's crazy about Yao? Yao actually started out his career relatively healthy too.
Yeah, then them feet started doing what your feet do when you're 7'6".
Yeah, after like year 5, though, Yao was cooked. I mean, Yao wasn't playing 30 games a year. Him and T-Mac just never stay healthy. But
So can I close this out here? And you can respond if you want to, but if not, feel free to just let me cook.
Go ahead. While you open up the culture hour, I'm going to take a piss, but answer to your question.
All right, perfect. So,
or ask you.
I don't like my background.
I thought you had one more thing to ask.
No, I was gonna. You can go. I'll go ahead and piss now. I was going to do my WNBA rant.
Oh, go ahead.
See, you see how people feel about the WNBA, but no, I'm going to give y'all the ugly background. So, watching the WNBA this past weekend, because I get so tired of you WNBA Twitter fans, you WNBA Instagram fans who actually don't watch the WNBA, having so much to say about people and their criticism of the WNBA. Well, let me tell you my WNBA experience over the weekend. I felt like the announcing crews on the 2 games that were nationally televised on Friday had kids who were graduated from high school on that Friday and because their minds were somewhere else. I complain about commentary a lot. I complain about play-by-play and color commentary because I think that a lot of people get to do those jobs and they're not good at them. But it was terrible to watch the Washington Mystics come back. The Chicago Sun. The Chicago Sun, I do believe, yeah. Chicago's WNBA team come back on the Washington Mystics or vice versa. One of the teams came back. And there was absolutely no enthusiasm. Like it was a 16-point comeback in the third quarter, and I got nothing. I got, basketball, Chicago Sky player. I go basketball. So I'm like, bro, what are we doing here? This is an intense game. Atlanta Deladon has a step back 3 to win the game with like less than a minute left. And there's no like, oh my God, there's nothing. You have no detailed analysis. You have no, we talked to coach before the game today, and she said, this is what we're looking to do. You know, last year we did this right here and this and that, and we're trying to build off of that and move forward. None of that. Like, hey, here's how we're doing in Chicago. Moving off of Candace Parker and what she brought to this team now that she's out in Vegas. There was like nothing tied it together. It was like they had interns discussing the game. And if you're trying to sell me a product that nobody wants to buy, you better do a better job of selling it. The people who were involved in that, presenting that product, need to do a better job of selling that product. Because if the people who are getting paid to be there act like they don't want to be there, why the hell would I pay to come? That's like somebody saying, hey, dog, bro, come support my football team. Y'all any good? Hell no, bro. We sorry as hell. Well, why would I come watch y'all if y'all sorry? You don't even want to be? No. But that's what we have with the WNBA. You got the coach of the Phoenix Mercury coming out. I thought we would have more people show up to the game. BG's her first home game. For what? Y'all don't want to be there. Y'all not promoting this. Why should I come support something that the infrastructure is not supporting? So NBA actually pour dollars into this product in a way that it works. WNBA, present yourself in a way that people want to receive your product. Guess what? Sex sells. I'm not telling you to put the women in bikinis and lingerie and overly sexualize them, but seeing Candace Parker in the CarMax commercials and seeing her out here in the Google commercials, seeing Kelsey Plum out here, sell that. I know that it may not be the easiest conversation to have because we're in this world of diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's very important. But if you're trying to make a dollar, you're trying to find the people who want to buy it. You're trying to create a product that people want to buy. So what do people want? How do I find that gap? How do I find some space in what they want? How do I get them to spend less time, less money elsewhere and bring them here? Figure out what people like. I watched my girl Enrique. I can't say her name, her last name. I'm not even going to try. Dallas, bucket. We see her on the Mark Cuban's commercials. That's fucking great. Keep putting these players out here. Make us get to know your players so we want to watch them. Because the more and more I get to watching WNBA players and getting to know the personalities, I go, you know what? Let me turn this game on. Let me watch this. The more and more you Twitter and Instagram WNBA fans keep talking this nonsense and telling me how important this is and how somebody be trending, and I go, well, okay, those trending topics don't turn into trending dollars. So I don't want to hear that nonsense. I still go and watch it just because sometimes it's a spite watch. Sometimes I want y'all to know that I'm watching so I can criticize what you're saying because I'm speaking from a place of experience and not just a place of this ain't working, this ain't good. Because it's actually good basketball at times. There's some good basketball players. But the league ain't making no money. And because the league's not making money, they're not bringing people in to actually prop it up. Maybe with your broadcasters, you should create a pipeline that leads your WNBA commentators to the NBA, to jobs at ESPN, to jobs with your other corporate partners. Or if they're good enough, if they like it, they become, hey, the primetime WNBA team, if you can get primetime games, right? Maybe you get matched with a legend, a great. Maybe you come up with a program that brings the great players back to cover the game and break it down. Maybe you do what was done in the Final Four where you got Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi breaking down the games, like a Manning cast style. I don't know, but what y'all got to figure out a way to make people who don't want to watch your product because, yeah, basketball purists will talk about the great basketball that's played in WNBA and how they fundamental. You see good screens, you see good offense, right? You see good mid-range, you see good layups, you see no dunks, you see good threes and all of that stuff. But you're pissing on me and you're telling me it's lemonade. And like you are like looking at me, you're taking a piss in a cup and you're saying, here, come to my lemonade stand. I go, how's the lemonade? I don't know, man. It's fucking piss. It's like, you want me to drink that? And this is not a knock on the women playing the game. It's a knock on the infrastructure around the game because it's half-ass selling. Maybe y'all can sell this Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese rivalry into next season, into the WNBA, so you have your Bird magic moment. Maybe y'all can, use the popularity that these women are getting NIL. Because look here, Angel Reese has not left my algorithm since the Final Four. I saw her today in Fashion Nova, Sports Illustrated. She even looked awkward trying to be pretty and shit. And she's a naturally beautiful girl, but like trying to be like this like pretty girl, like modeling shit. It looks super forced and awkward for her because it doesn't fit with her personality. She seemed like a girl who'd be fine as hell in sweatpants and Nike slides and her hair up when she ain't even trying to be fine. And then when she actually try to be fine, she don't even look as good as she look when she ain't trying to be fine. That is not a knock. Like that's a dope look that I actually can get behind. Like the I'm fine as fuck when I don't even try. So, but that's like I don't know, Parlay Pete, and I know you were gone for most of this, man. I just think the WNBA is just.
Well, it's back, is what it is, because BG's back. So.
Yeah, that bullshit. Well, nobody
I'm
back.
sorry, the WNBA is not back because BG's back. Basketball
is back in the middle of the NBA playoffs. It was during the conference final talking about basketball is back. No, basketball.
Hasn't been basketball. You can't spell basketball without a B. All right.
Can't spell.
And you can't have a basketball game without BG.
I will tell you there's something else I would like to say.
It's basketball aim without BG. So
You can't say ooh. You can't spell ooh agger without BG either.
Cash Money don't exist without BG. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, I just can't. I just wish the WNBA would tell the truth. And don't tell me you're trending on Twitter. That don't make money. You know who doesn't trend on Twitter often, but they're a walking bag?
What?
Skip Bayless.